Okay. Hello, my name is Andrew Webb.
I'm Lilburne.
And I'm Demi Ladbrook. We're here today to show you how you would teach about women's roles in society for grades 7 to 10 and how they have changed over the years. We call it From Homemakers to Careers. Acceptance of women's roles in sports careers, careers in war and careers in families.
Much has changed, but really little has. On the 26th of February 2003, the Victorian Parliament sat down to convene with its electoral representatives. Then cries of a young baby were heard when Labor backbencher Kirsty Marshall began to breastfeed her newborn baby Charlotte. Within seconds, the Sergeant-at-Arms, Gavin Brooke, under instruction approached Kirsty Marshall, ejecting her and her baby from the Parliament's proceedings. This is an excellent example of an Australian male-gendered institution that has not changed with the times by accepting the roles that women undertake both at home and in their professions.
Hi, my name is Lilburne. Today I will be discussing the roles of women in society and more specifically the roles of women in families and how we can integrate this into a teaching environment. Australia is promoted as a free country. In this country most people have equal rights, although the article puts emphasis on the issue of breastfeeding and in public and the unequal rights that it proposes. While in the past women were expected to stay at home, look after their children, cook dinner and clean the house, now they have more choices. They can be a stay-at-home mum or enter the workforce and provide financially for their family, or a combination of both. So women's roles in the family have changed and evolved over recent decades. So to start a lesson on this issue, I would discuss the article introduced earlier in the program. Get the students thinking about the situation and introduce them to the issue of women's rights in society in Australia and how that can present difference and diversity in the community. It's important to be interacting with the students and getting their opinions and ideas. Ask the students what they think the roles of women are in the family in the Western world now and in the past, and ask them why. Get them into small groups, writing their ideas down on paper and sharing with the rest of the class. For homework, get them to ask their parents or grandparents what the roles of women were in their family when they were growing up and what they think they are now. So the next day, just reflect with the whole class and what everyone had found. Write all the ideas on the whiteboard. So you'll find that children from Indigenous backgrounds will have different answers to that of someone from an Italian background. Another fun way to integrate the learning of women's roles in society and in the family is to have a theme week where children can role play. So for instance, get the boys to dress up how they would in the 1920s and the females to dress up as how they would in the 1920s. The males can typically go out and earn a living, so you can provide little workstations to do math problems and literature, that kind of thing, so you can integrate more than one learning aspect into the activities. And the females can stay at home and the males can earn money so that the females can buy the food and cook the dinner, and then do a reverse role play. So the women can go out and do the activities to earn the money and the males can stay home and clean and cook and that kind of thing. Get the children to think of the ideas so that they're putting down what they've learned into play. So during the theme week, women from different cultural backgrounds could come in and talk about the roles of women in the family when they were growing up, in their generation and in their culture. So I hope you've enjoyed just a little bit of what I've been talking about, and here's Demi.
The roles played by women during times of conflict are vast and varied. Throughout Australia's wartime history, women have been servicewomen, prisoners of war, nurses, doctors, entertainers and peacekeepers, just to name a few of ways they've contributed. As a teacher, I would aim to increase knowledge in the area by investigating the role of women in the study of society and environment, or more commonly known as SOCE, in the Year 7 to 10 curriculum. The activities will allow students to be creative and focus on change and continuity by using historical sources. As an introductory activity, I would give each student a list of pictures of different times in history. I would ask them to hypothesize what changes in women's roles have taken place and why. I'd ask students what evidence the photos give to say about the changing roles of women at these different times of conflict. For my second activity, I would break the class up into 3 groups, and then smaller groups within those groups. Each group would have the theme of World War I, World War II, and Vietnam War in the 1960s. Their focus question: what roles did women have in the medical corps? What were their daily lives like? Where were they stationed? And what are the personal experiences of women who served in the medical corps? For the younger grades, I would give them a list of websites, including the Australian War Memorial website, and direct them to important parts in this webpage, including the 100 Years of Military Nursing document, the nurses' experience of Gallipoli from their letters, and the nurses' surviving evacuation from Greece. I'd bring the class together and get each group to share their information and tell the class about the role of women in the medical corps in this war. For the third activity, I would give the class 10 statements. Examples are shown on the screen, such as: women were strong during times of conflict. Women were hopeful during times of conflict. Women offered support during times of conflict. Women demonstrated compassion during times of conflict. And each person has to find 3 examples to support 4 statements of their choice, and also list the site they retrieved it from. Using this information, the students were split into groups and they'll be asked to create a website which supports each of the 10 statements given to them. And this will be carried out throughout the term. And for their final assessment, I would get each student to create a game, whether it be a board game or a card game. It is up to their creativity. But to create a game that would educate students in the roles of women in war. They will be marked on knowledge and creativity. I believe this to be important because this will appeal not only to the oral and literacy learners, but also the kinesthetic learners. I'm going to hand you over now to Andrew, who will talk to you about the roles of women in sport.
Thanks, Demi. I'm here today to explain my segment on how to teach grade 7 to senior about women's roles in sports. Firstly, did you know that up until 2007, women were not allowed to breastfeed in public areas, and it was only 3 generations ago that women were even allowed to vote, plus compete in competitive sports. Women such as Leah Ann Goodwin, Kelly McKillar, Georgina Archie, Jodie Edwards, Leanne Edmondson, Felicity Huntington, Kayleen Jansen, Karen Menzies and Kathy Freeman all have one thing in common. They are Indigenous women who have excelled in sports and set perfect examples for young generations. Women in sports, I think, is a logical, well-rounded, motivational example for students of race, class and gender in society today, and has had a massive impact on the way we live in our modern day communities and will continue to do so into the future. Firstly, I would like to outline some useful pedagogy resources that can be used to teach this issue in a classroom environment. Books: Women in Sports by Jo Layden, Field Hockey by Elizabeth Anders with Sue Myers, and an excellent example of race with a book called Black Gold by Colin Taz and Paul Taz, has fantastic references to women's accomplishments in professional sports from the early 1920s to today. DVDs can also be used in giving a visual in-depth insight to the topic for students. DVDs such as Dawn by Joe Cavell and Mate Excellent, This Is Your Life by unforgettable Aussie sport legends. Also, you can use simple games such as Made-Up Trivial Pursuit, asking questions about famous women, athletes and their accomplishments. Students do not need to know the answers to these to join in and participate, and while they do that, it is a fun learning activity. Questions such as, what famous female Australian swimmer won 4 consecutive gold medals in the 1956 Olympics Games? And the answer is Dawn Fraser. What was the medal type won by the Australian female hockey team in 2000 Sydney Olympics? The answer is gold. And which is Indigenous female midfield player, indoor and outdoor soccer, represented Australia on 23 occasions? Answer, Kayleen Jansen, who began her career in Brisbane during 1986. You can have around 20 or so similar type questions to these and have students winning 1 point for each correct answer, and in the end having 3 placing winners such as gold, silver and bronze, like they do in the Olympics. There are lots more of pedagogy ideas you can come up with. These are just some examples that I've been able to use here today, and you can use it in a classroom setting. Making the issue of women's roles in society to be a pinnacle, important topic in the Australian community today. All these topics that we've chosen women's roles in families and women's roles in war and women's roles in sports, you can see that still we have a long way to go for women and their roles being accepted in society, and we think that through an educational program or a lesson plan being constructed and used in a classroom setting or environment, this would really benefit the students and make a bright future.
Thank you.